And so you're going to hear from some amazing women tonight who are going to tell you about opportunities and disparities in a balanced way. As a city, San Antonio has a legacy of strong and amazing women, but we also have a legacy of men who have been allies. And today, I get to introduce, please mute yourself, by the way. I get to introduce you to one of those allies, our current mayor. Mayor Ron Nierenberg has been mayor of our great city since 2017. He is of Asian descent, and I believe the only Asian person of Asian descent of a major American city. Please mute your. And he's also one of the fittest mayors in an American city. As an advocate of all, Mayor Nierenberg has garnered national attention. Please mute. An appreciation for the steady way he's directed our city in crisis. It gives me great honor, and it's a privilege to introduce to you the mayor of our great city of San Antonio and my dear friend, Mayor Ron Nierenberg.
Good evening, and thank you very much, Carrie, for that introduction. I very much appreciate you and the work that you do, and Almi and your great friendship that you have in San Antonio, but also to me personally, thank you. And it's great to be with the Chamber of Commerce tonight. It is a busy time of year, as you know, but I wouldn't miss this for the world. So I'm so glad that despite all the challenges, we continue to persist even through a virtual environment. And it is my honor to join you tonight. I do want to thank the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce of Central Texas for hosting this celebration of Women's History Month. Our society, as you know, may have come a long way, but still women have much work. Still, women have to work harder to prove themselves in the political and business arenas. So we still have a long way to go. A Pew Research Center study found that 60% of Americans say that one key reason that women are underrepresented in top executive positions in business is that women have to do more to prove themselves than men. About half say that gender discrimination is a major barrier. That is a big wake-up call for the entire country. And in another telling result, the Pew poll found that 70% of Americans say that being assertive and ambitious help a man's chances in both realms, political and business, while only half feel the same way about women, that those traits were equally helpful to women who are trying to get to the top. That shows the stark reality that we live in and the different perceptions that women face entering the political and business arenas. And 25% of Americans say that being assertive and ambitious mostly hurts a woman's chances of getting ahead in politics and business. Still, despite all of that, women are rising to the top in greater numbers. And for that, we have a lot to celebrate. In recent years, women-owned firms have outpaced the national average in both job creation and revenue generation. In fact, before the COVID pandemic, more than 1,000 net new women-owned firms were being started every single day. Texas ranks in the top 10 of states with the greatest growth in the number of women-owned firms, but we can still do better. And we need to start the conversation of identifying how to remove the barriers to building the best city and county for more women to build businesses and jobs. And so let me pause a moment and just to recognize all the wonderful women leaders we have present tonight and throughout our community. We do have a lot to celebrate in our local community and true models of how women are leading in virtually every sector of life here in San Antonio. Financing, education, and mentorship are some of the key barriers that everyone faces, especially women. And that's why the work around women's entrepreneurship is so important. As mayor, I'm proud to note that the city of San Antonio is partnering with the Lift Fund on a loan buy-down program to provide 0% loans to small business owners with limited access to capital. Lift Fund, as you know, has more than 25 years of small business and of advancing small businesses and startup experience. and developing female entrepreneurs through the Women's Business Center. The micro lender, which started right here, has changed names since it was founded in 1994, but most important, it has changed many lives and helped more than 20,000 entrepreneurs create thousands of jobs here locally and throughout the region. The city also partnered with Lift Fund to manage Launch SA, which is a resource center for the types of small businesses that Lift Funds nurtures financially. And Lift Fund is also playing a major role helping the city distribute grants and loans to businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic, over $50 million in total in our recovery and resiliency program. Helping small businesses obtain funds and get on the fast track to success is an important mission that I think we all can get behind. Small businesses, as you know, are the backbone of our economy, and this kind of work is vital to being an economic development tool in our community. And I noted before the event began that we had a small business, a Filipino grocery store, Sari, who I know many of you are familiar with, who opened a second location in San Antonio, but a perfect example of how entrepreneurship and small business can thrive in our community. We're committed to breaking down barriers to capital and know-how. San Antonio's business climate will regain its vibrancy in the aftermath of COVID-19, but it hasn't always been inclusive and supportive of women-owned businesses. We're working to change that. The city of San Antonio is making an effort to remove barriers within our community as a whole. And as you might know, City Council passed a women's equity resolution a little more than 2 years ago. The resolution is a public pledge. It's more than symbolism to ensure that women have a fair shot at success. Equity is not a catchphrase or a cheap slogan. It's a strategy to invest public resources in real results. Equity is a strategy where you allocate the greatest resources where there is the greatest need to have the greatest impact. All of our challenges in the city, as you know, are interconnected. Poverty is associated with poor health outcomes. Access to healthcare is connected with access to education from pre-K to college. Education is linked to the housing and where you live. Housing is based on affordability and transportation options, and transit and mobility affect the air quality and the health outcomes like asthma and diabetes. The common denominator for poverty is exclusion and lack of opportunity in a history of disinvestment. The fight for equality must be waged across the board and not just in the workplace. So very quickly, I want to turn to a quick update on COVID-19. As you know, we as a city have been focused on the fight against COVID-19 for now well over a year. And in fact, it was a year ago today that Judge Nelson Wolff and I began our daily briefings on the air. And I want to thank you all for tuning into that, because information from our public health professionals has been our main tool for which we've been able to fight COVID-19 in our city. January was our city's most difficult month of the pandemic. At the end of last month, 51% of our city's cases occurred in December and January. We continue to gain new cases each day, but it's at a far slower pace today, and for that, we're thankful. Our numbers are beginning to look much better, but we have to maintain our efforts to reduce the spread of coronavirus while the vaccination process continues. COVID-19 has spread throughout our community, and it should be noted that women are getting the illness more than men. Some 53%, in fact, of Bexar County's COVID-19 cases have been among women, while 47% of COVID patients are men. Men are dying more frequently from the virus. About 57% of fatalities are men compared to 43% of women. And the overall case fatality rate is 1.4% higher for men, with 1.7% of those who get COVID-19 dying. For Bexar County women, 1.2% of those who have contracted have passed away. All of this to say that scientists are learning more and more about COVID every single day, and no doubt we'll be able to better explain the disproportional impacts of the virus in the near future. We are all in this together, and as of Monday, everyone 16 or older is eligible for a COVID-19 vaccine, And please, 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 at the earliest available opportunity, go get your appointment and vaccine. More than 250,000 people have been fully vaccinated in our community as of today, and over 440,000 people have received at least the first dose. That's very good, and we're on our way. And it's no surprise that the city's economically challenged neighborhoods are being hit the hardest, and we're trying very hard to target those areas. Metro Health has been working hard to reach the most vulnerable individuals with information on vaccines and proper protocols. And we have a vaccination program for Hope Mild seniors where we partner with Meals on Wheels and take the vaccine directly into their homes. For all of us, the best way to end the spread of the virus is to wear a mask, maintain social distancing, and wash our hands frequently. And of course, get vaccinated as soon as you get an opportunity. I know we're looking forward to the panel discussion, so I'll wrap up my remarks. But let me close by saying that Women's History Month provides an important opportunity for reflection and redoubling our efforts for equity and fair opportunity. When women succeed, our city thrives. When women are empowered, San Antonio moves forward. When we work together, progress is possible and achieved. I thank you very much for the invitation to join you. I am in your service, and thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you so much, Mayor Nierenberg. Let's give him a round of applause in your virtual spaces. Do you have a minute or two to take a question from our audience by any chance?
Yes,
Mayor?
of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Angelica, do we have any questions in the crowd or any raised hands? Cecile Victoriano says, thank you, Mayor Ron Nierenberg. So
thank you.
Anyone have any questions? Yes. Introduce yourself. Thought I heard someone unmute their mic. I think this is the easiest crowd you'll ever get, Mayor.
Mayor, I do have a question. This is Dana Bloom. That statistics you have with regards to having more women compared to men being infected with COVID, is that taking into consideration the population proportion where there is actually more women than men?
So thank you, Donna, and it's good to see you. And it was good to join you also last weekend for your very important words. That is not corrected for population. We're eproughly 51% female population in San Antonio, so there is a slight imbalance. But the epidemiological team at Metro Health compiles those statistics straight from the state health data that is reported back to San Antonio. So it is accurate, and it does show, despite the higher proportion of women in our population, that we are it is impacting women more from a health standpoint. And of course, as we know, and Dr. Lattimore mentioned, it is also having a disproportionate impact economically on women as well.
I would just also like to share, Mayor, that we at the School of Nursing at UT Health San Antonio are really making an effort to reach communities which are experiencing disparities, and we bring the COVID vaccines to them, seeking out those communities rather than partnering with Metro Health, of course, with regards to rather than depending on people going to big centers. So just FYI.
Thank you, Donna. The healthcare community of San Antonio, our healthcare professionals are true heroes. We are forever in your debt, Donna. And what you all have been doing to make sure that the vaccine gets distributed, gets administered to people who do not have access is just nothing short of Herculean. I'm continually impressed. In the White House, I talked to them last night. They continue to mention the work that we're doing on innovation, healthcare workers going door to door. It's really remarkable. So that will be a story we tell for a long, long time.
Thank you very much. We have one more question from Rowena Waters. It says here in our chat box, Mayor, how are women represented among elected officials in San Antonio?
Great question. And the answer is emphatically very, very well. In fact, I serve on a female elected majority council. It was the first female elected majority council in the city's history. I'm very proud of that. We have a number, I don't know the proportion, but there has been a larger proportion of our state delegation elected who are female over the last several years than we have at any time in the past. And then, of course, we now know there are 2 members of the Commissioners Court who are women, and that is the first time we've ever had a woman on the Commissioners Court outside of Judge Cryer when she served, and then Commissioner Duttmer, I believe, prior to that. So we are well on our way to achieving equity from a representation standpoint politically in San Antonio. We have to continue to push in that direction. I'm also very proud to have appointed the first female chair to the San Antonio Water System Board, Dr. Jolynn Burley, who is serving currently. We know we are very ably served. Our CEO of the energy utility is Paula Gold Williams, who is a Sam Houston High School graduate, by the way. So there are so many women in positions of authority and leadership in our community, and it is very well worth celebrating. Very proud of that.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you for your work and your support and everything that you do for the PACC as well. And so we just want to thank you and appreciate you for being our mayor in a very difficult time. So again, thank you so much. We're going to now try to play that video again, but before we move to the video, I want to take care of 2 house cleaning issues. I want to first give special, as we call it, a shout out to Gus Mercado and Ethel. I think maybe Mom Ethel is there as well, and they are basically our founders of the PACC in Texas. And so I want
Can I ask, this is Mila.
And then before we do the video, I also want to recognize our special guest, Mayor April Rose Ann, and I'm going to probably slaughter this name, Canonigo. And if she could quickly say where she's from and who she is, and that will go ahead and give her a few moments.
I'm not prepared. I'm April Rose and Canonigo. I'm here in the Philippines, and then I work for Miss Rubina and for the PACC.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you po.
And so,
Dr. Latimore, I think Timila was trying to ask a question and inadvertently muted herself during the process.
okay.
Unmute yourself, Timila. You're still unmuted.
Okay, there you go. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, my question is, does the city have any specific programs for professional single women who have to give up their jobs because of the pandemic? Is there anything we can do to help them out? Does the city have any special program for them?
Yeah, you're asking me that question, Mila. Yes, absolutely, 100% yes. And so, as you know, we have a recovery and resiliency program, and one of the things I'm very proud of is that we focused a big portion of that on people who were affected by COVID employment issues. So we have a Train for Jobs program where we are getting people who have been affected by unemployment or underemployment through COVID into training programs that are in high demand careers with jobs available in our community. And it's been very successful. I'm happy to tell you that over 5,000 people have already enrolled. They're receiving stipends while they train. And get this, 72% of the people who have been enrolled are women. So 72% of the enrollments in the Train for Jobs program are women. That program will continue through the end of September, our fiscal year. And then we are going to transition to the Ready to Work program that was on the ballot that I really pushed hard for, that was approved by voters in November by a 77% margin. So we're going to have 1 full year of the Train for Jobs program, which is showing remarkable results. And we're going to transition into the next 4 years of SA Ready to Work, which is essentially the same type of job training program.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Miguel.
much.
Thank you,
And
Mila.
Angelica, I'm going to ask that you play the video, and then we'll move forward to our conversation.
April, can you do the video, please?
With a professional network of outstanding members from Rio Grande Valley to Dallas-Fort Worth to Houston to San Antonio, with plans to continue expansion, the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Texas is over 600 members strong. Year-round, the Chamber significantly contributes to the fast-growing, thriving Filipino American community. Conceived during the first trade mission to the Philippines in 2008, and since its official founding in 2009 by Honorary Consul Ethel Reyes Mercado, PACC Texas has led the way in inspiring and bolstering the spirit of entrepreneurship among Filipinos, Filipino Americans, community members, and business partners. We exist to empower new business owners, as well as established entrepreneurs, to become efficient and effective in their business through education, business matching, and networking. We tirelessly support entrepreneurs in their pursuit of excellence. PACC Texas provides leadership and engagement to promote and strengthen Philippine American trade, investments, economic relations, tourism, and cross-cultural activities. The Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Texas is at the forefront of bridging trade and new business opportunities between the United States and Philippine-based partners. In the last 10 years, through its strategic alliances with development partners, the Chamber's trade investment missions to the Philippines have generated more than $50 million yearly in new businesses for both the delegates and their new partners in the Philippines. PACC Texas connects members to business relations and opportunities while promoting goodwill between the United States and the Philippines. The Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Texas is committed to enhancing the quality of life of the communities we serve. We know that profits are important, but ultimately, our success is because of and about
Business members.
PACC Texas members make a difference in people's lives. PACC Texas is the official program implementation partner of the Philippine Consulate General and the Philippine Honorary Consulate of Texas. In a span of a decade, through the consular outreach programs, members have helped more than 40,000 Filipinos in Texas and neighboring states in renewing passports, applying for dual citizenship, and registering for absentee voting privileges. When it comes to giving back, Chamber members are always ready to respond in times of need. In partnership with sister chambers, nonprofit agencies, and community organizations in the United States and the Philippines, we have implemented life-changing initiatives. The PACC Texas-led Operation Save Lives national campaign in the wake of Typhoon Haiyan raised more than $1 million in donations to help affected communities. It is no surprise that of the 160 nominees from more than 3,700 Filipino-American organizations in the United States, the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Texas in 2015 would be selected by the National Federation of Filipino-American Associations as the most outstanding Filipino-American organization in the U.S. We proudly celebrate the first remarkable 10 years of the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Texas. We aim to continue this legacy with you. Join us. Let's elevate the quality of business and life for Filipinos, Filipino Americans, and for our communities. Here's to another decade of excellence.
Thank you very much for helping us out, April, and showing that video. Round of applause to PACC Texas for creating that amazing video to showcase their mission and all the amazing works that they have done. Yes, great video. And so for those of you who do not know me, my name is Dr. Pat Lindsay Pinky Catalia Busqueno, but many of you know me as Dr. Pinky. And I have the honor tonight to be your moderator for our panel discussion. Of course, I want to make sure we thank our co-sponsors this evening. Thank you to San Antonio Women's Chamber of Commerce through Dr. Yvonne Katz. Thank you for Girls Inc. with Leah Rosenhauer, and for Filipino American National Historians, Tito Gus Mercado, founder of PACC Texas, and Tita Ethel Mercado, Honorary Council of the Philippines. And so it's my pleasure to introduce these four amazing women coming from various intersections of industries and life experiences. We are here today to learn and listen to their stories and struggles. We honor these women for their excellent service in the respective industry, and most especially their deep commitment to community service. So without further ado, let's introduce our panelists. First up, let's give it up for Dr. Yvonne Katz. She is the Executive Director and President of the San Antonio Women's Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Fun fact, she was named twice by the Executive Director magazine in the top 100 superintendents in North America, and she was one of Texas's top 5 superintendents in 1990. So let's give it up for Dr. Katz in the house. And she has some folks across the country who are here as her fan groupies. Welcome. Next up, I want to welcome Leah Rosenauer, and she is the president and CEO of Girls Inc. of San Antonio, named the 2018 Nonprofit Senior Manager of the Year by the San Antonio Business Journal. Leah is a current member of Leadership San Antonio Class 44 and a graduate of the City South Leadership Academy and the Women's Chamber Level 5 leadership class. I mean, this woman has leadership. It should be Leah Leadership right in the middle of her name. So let's give it up for Leah Rosenauer. Thank you so much for being here tonight. All right, next up we have Rowena Waters. She is the president of ETC Learning Centers and is the president of the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce Texas. Rowena was recognized as one of the top 25 women of Dallas in 2016 by the Steed Society Female Success Factor, sharing recognitions from her role models, then Dallas Sheriff Lupe Valdez, Judge Amber Davis, and State Representative Helen Giddings. She was also awarded Member of the Year in 2016 by the Greater Dallas Asian Chamber of Commerce and an MVP in 2019 by the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce Texas. Oh my goodness. Rowena Waters in the house, everybody. And last, and certainly most, not the least, we have Marie Cunning, owner of Arizona Discount Flooring LLC. She is also the president and CEO of Artista Development Inc. Fun fact, Marie has received the Outstanding Asian American Citizen Award by U.S. Senator Kyle in 2006, and also received the International President's Award as an Outstanding Lion by the Lions Club in 2010. Let's give it up for Marie Cunning, everybody. Wow, wow, wow. We have really a star-studded line of women, and we are going to begin. And how we're going to do this, I'm going to say a question, and we're going to call upon each woman here to answer. Is everyone ready to hear their stories? Okay. So let's start off with the first question, okay? The first question is, As we know, ladies, right? We know that life can be a roller coaster ride filled with ups and downs, especially pre and post COVID. So, Dr. Katz, I'm going to start with you. What was a defining moment in your life that was significant to becoming who you are today? Dr. Katz, let's go ahead and unmute. Yes, we want to hear that beautiful voice of yours.
My twang,
There we
my
go.
Texas twang. Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here. And I just first off want to share my condolences with the AAPI community regarding the tragedy that took place in Atlanta last week. We all just have to work harder and harder and harder to try to decrease and stamp out the hate and racism that seems to abound in our country. And I just am sick about what happened there. So please accept my condolences. Well, former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright has stated, quote, "It took me a long time to develop a voice. And now that I have it, I'm not going to be silent." So I think that applies to all of the women who are on tonight. There were two big things that really influenced me to help me get to where I needed to get to and cement my core values. One was when I interviewed in Austin School District for my first teaching job, and the HR director asked me, my maiden name was DeOlive, Miss DeOlive, what kind of teacher are you going to be in our school system? And I looked at him, 22 years old, and I said, "Sir, I'm going to be the best damn teacher you have ever seen in this school system." And he said, "That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Miss DeOlive, if you don't toot your own horn, no one else will." So that has resonated with me for these many 40, 50 years, that we all have to be proud of ourselves, toot our horns, and keep our voices going. The next one that really had an impact on me and is just solidified in my mind was when I was interviewing for my third teaching job in Norfolk, Virginia. This was during Vietnam time, and I was interviewing for an inner city K-8, mainly African-American school. And I asked the principal, "What kind of reading program do you use in the 5th grade for teaching reading?" And I have chills on my arms right now just recounting this. And he said, "Ms. Katz, I believe this. If a child leaves the 3rd grade and they don't know how to read, they'll never learn how to read. So we don't teach reading in the 5th grade." And I remember my mouth dropped to the floor, and somehow I got it back up on my face. And I said to him, "What do you do all day long with the children if you're not teaching reading? Reading is the basis of all of their success." And he said, "I believe we get to those kids through art, music, and PE. There were no textbooks in the classroom. The kids had to buy their textbooks at that time in Virginia. These were children who came from very low wealth homes, and they weren't going to be able to buy their textbooks. So it imprinted on my mind that that was no expectations for children. And I said, I will never be in that position again. We will set high expectations for children. That's what's made me who I am today.
Wow, what an amazing story, and to start off strong. Thank you, Dr. Katz. I want to hear from Rowena. Rowena, what was that defining moment in your life that was significant to becoming who you are today?
Failure. Failure. Failure is an important teaching opportunity for everyone, especially me. It was when I failed. I was doing very well, and I thought my trajectory was really fast when I started my business, and then failure hit me in business. And I've lost practically everything and about to lose more. So I stopped. I reached out. At that time in my life, I was an admin person. Admin and operations was my strength, not marketing, not sales. I hired people for those. but I had to learn. Suddenly, I had to rely on myself. So I reached out. This was the first time I reached out to a chamber. I reached out to the Asian Chamber. I reached out to friends, and I found I have good friends. And they introduced me to the community, and it's been meaningful since. It has taught me how to sell. It has taught me how to market. So now I have more skills than I never would have thought I would have had.
That's amazing that you've even mentioned the chamber as a resource during your lowest times. So it's come full circle. It seems now you being the leader. So thank you for
Giving back.
sharing, Rowena.
It's
I'd
like
love to
giving
hear
back.
from Leah into becoming who you are today.
Thank you, Dr. Pinky. I do love your nickname. We have a student here at Girls Inc. that goes by Pinky, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on this panel. I am honored to be amongst such amazing women leaders across the globe. For those of you who don't know, Girls Inc. is a nonprofit that inspires girls to be strong, smart, and bold. And that is truly what gets me up in the morning. I'm going to go back to when I was a child. When I was 10 years old, we moved from New York, from Brooklyn, to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And all of a sudden, I was thrust into a school district as the only Jewish student in the entire district. And I was 10, fourth grade, and we went to synagogue for the high holidays. And my mom took me back to school and asked for an excused absence. And the principal at the elementary school said something to the effect of, it's an unexcused absence. If I excuse every absence that, any crazy holiday that people want to celebrate, we couldn't do it. And I just remember distinctly my mother pausing, smiling, saying thank you, and turning around and taking me. And we went to administration, and she asked to speak to the superintendent. I remember her being polite. I remember her, saying, no, I need to speak with the superintendent, and asking for the absence policies and having a conversation about how this was unacceptable. And just because this principal had never had a Jewish student did not excuse the fact that there was not even a question or a desire to want to learn more. And that experience to this day has kind of shaped me in questioning and researching and not letting things that are unequal, that are not representative, just lie. That you have to be able to state your point and make a difference. And I mean, to this day, I remember it very well. So that's what comes to mind when I saw the question.
That is amazing that you connect that to a strong woman in your life, your mom. Essentially, it's a classic mom move, and she went to the top. My mom just does that, growing up at McDonald's. Okay. I mean, she means business. But your mom went straight to the superintendent without any fear, and she definitely was very bold. So thank you, Leah, for sharing. We definitely want to hear significant to become who you are. Marie?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
Oh, I did. Did you introduce me already? I'm so
yes,
sorry.
Marie, it's okay. It's your turn. Yes, Marie, we did. It's okay, but we would love to hear about your defining moment in your life that was significant to becoming who you are today.
Well, first of all, in your introduction, I'm proud of my 4 companies, but I'm also proudest of my biggest achievement, which has been president of the largest the only National Chamber of Business Chambers here in the United States, which is FPACC, the Federation of Philippine American Chambers of Commerce, because I consider that one of my biggest achievements. I would like to break your question into 2 parts. My defining moment in for my business life is, I have a degree in accounting and a master's in business, and I've just always had jobs that were hard jobs, 16-hour jobs, because the corporation owes you. And that was good when I was still single. But when the kids started coming, I saw it as I could never, I was a chief auditor for Price Waterhouse, and then I became chief financial officer for Cigna. And I just never saw my children because I was working long hours. So that in itself, to me, was the defining moment, my why, as to why I started my first business. It's tough when you're making a 6-figure salary to jump out of that into a business where you're not sure you're even going to make a paycheck in a month. So to me, that was my defining moment. But the driving factor was so that I could spend a lot more time with my boys, be able to watch their golf games, their baseball games, their soccer games. And you know what? I've never looked back since. So, and of course, that panned out good for me, because my first business, which is my construction company, my first year in construction, we built 15 homes. So it was never, ever looking back after that. And for my community life, my defining moment is as a Lion. Well, I'm a 3rd-generation Lion. My grandfather was a Lion, actually a member of the first Lions Club in Manila. And then my father was a Lion, and then I was a Lion. And I remember when I was a little girl, my grandfather said, I go to all the Lions functions with my grandfather, who was a congressman. And he was like, I told him, when I grow up, I want to be a Lion. And my grandpa goes, good luck, that we don't accept women in Lionism. So in 1987, when they started accepting women in Lionism, guess what? I chartered the 2nd Filipino-American Lions Club in Arizona. So I've been a Lion, 25 years now. And from there, I have grown in my Lions career and even became district governor of Arizona last year. But like I said, my defining moment was my first medical mission. That going back to the Philippines and helping thousands of needy people. And, to me, that was my defining moment. This is what I want to do. As a business person, the bottom line is always important. However, I do believe that we should also be social entrepreneurs, because it doesn't matter how much money you have. What matters is how you've improved your corner of the world because you're in it. Thank you.
Wow, Marie, that is amazing. I love that you really asked yourself why at the end of the day, and have continued to break barriers. And I'm sure your grandfather is proud, even though he's eating his words. I know we have questions in the crowd, but we're going to wait until the end to answer those questions so we can get through our panel discussion. So hold off, write it in the chat box or hold it off to the end, please. Okay. So I want to ask the next question, Dr. Katz. So research shows that women face many barriers in life, but still move forward despite these odds, right? So describe any experiences you've had, Dr. Katz, where you faced anything due to, challenges due to gender bias, discrimination, or even oppression. Was there one experience in particular that shaped you, Dr. Katz? Dr. Katz?
There we go. I'm sorry.
There we go.
Yes, I wanted to share what the former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt once said, quote, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission," end quote. So remember that as we work through tonight and go into our next days of work. Well, I was the only woman superintendent in Texas in the mid-'80s, except for one other woman superintendent, Dr. Lane Murray. And she was the superintendent of the education programs in the penal system, all the prisons of Texas. So for about a year, I was the only woman superintendent amongst about 1,100, 1,200 male superintendents throughout the state. So when I became superintendent in Harlandale School District here on the south side of San Antonio, I was, of course, the only woman superintendent amongst all the other 18 male superintendents. That district had over 15,000 students. It was 88% Hispanic from a low wealth area of San Antonio. And all the male superintendents got together, and I didn't find this out till later, I'll explain that. All the male superintendents got together and said, there's no way she's gonna last. She will not last 6 weeks over there. Not with that board and all of the stuff she's walking into, there's no way. Well, 6 weeks came and went, and then 6 months, and then a year. So when I left the district 7.5 years later, all these superintendents, male superintendents, gave me a little reception amongst the superintendents. And they told me about their bet that they had on me. And they apologized that they didn't realize that I was going to last and make the district not only survive, but thrive. So that was one of those areas I fought all along, all throughout. One of the things that the lesson piece out of this is that sometimes we women don't want to say that we don't know something. And I had a confidant here in San Antonio as a superintendent, Dr. Victor Rodriguez, who was superintendent of the San Antonio School District for years and years. And so I asked Victor if he would help me, if he would be my mentor. And when I didn't know something, could I call him or could I come by the office and tell him about what the situation was? So we all need mentors. We all need to be a mentor to others. And we need to look back on that ladder that we're always climbing and pull those next women up that ladder with us as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Katz. You've hit up both my second question and my third question. That's excellent. And I love that they bet on you, right? Because they bet right. And they best the damn teacher, best superintendent, right, in town. So wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so Rowena, we'd love to hear from you to describe any experiences you faced, challenges you faced due to gender bias, discrimination, oppression, or even an experience particular to you that shaped you.
You know, we all face different types of discrimination and different kinds of bias. I am a Filipina. I come from one of the poorest countries in Asia. I am a woman. I am short. And at one point, I was young among very seasoned executives. So, along the way, we find a lot of irritating and sometimes, if I allowed it, debilitating experiences. So there is not one, but I learned cumulatively. When I was very young, I attended this workshop wherein I was the only one who guessed an answer to a workshop question. And the group was older folks, mostly men, one woman, and myself. I was the youngest. And I was told, oh, it's because you've attended a previous workshop. That's why you know the answer. So, that's against youth. And then when I was putting together the Asian Festival for the Asian Chamber, I was questioned 2 things. One was, why this Filipina? And 2, why is your team mostly women? So my answer, the Filipina, I wouldn't even bother. I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to answer. I am who I am. You should be happy to have me. The second one is, how come you never questioned the previous team who had mostly men? Why are you questioning me about women? I'm looking at ability. I'm looking at commitment. I don't see the gender as being important. And sure enough, to this day, it is still the highest revenue, the most profitable festival they have ever had in their history. And I'm proud of that.
That's great. My answer would be, why not Filipina? So I think that's you really hit the mark on debilitating experiences, because it can be traumatic, right? Being questioned about your identity being denied for Latina American. So thank you for sharing that. Leah, we'd love to hear about your experiences that you faced.
Thank you so much. When I saw this question, part of it was, why do women move forward, against all odds? And I think often, not always, but I do think often women have that grit and determination, often because they're doing it for a loved one. You see them move forward because of their children or because of their husband or a sick relative. And I think sometimes that ability to move forward and figure things out and problem solve and make things happen goes unrecognized because it may not be for their individual career or their individual accolade. It's because they want what's best for those around them, often loved ones. And I think that's a real shame, because I think all of that grit, determination, get back up, figure it out, are skills that women bring to all areas of their lives, whether it's work, community, home, faith, that women have those skills that often go unrecognized. At Girls Inc., one of the things that we teach our girls, we have 6 Bill of Rights that we want every girl to embrace and to know. And one is to take risks and to strive freely and to take pride in their success. The mayor talked earlier about some statistics about women, and taking pride in success is something women don't do very well, right? It's like, oh, thanks, oh, it really wasn't me. So when I think about what experience shaped me, I'm going to go back to my parents, is that they always told me that I could try and I can learn and I could figure it out. And if I failed, it was okay. So I always had in the back of my mind, when I was the only female in the room, when I was sitting in front of auditors who were trying to explain to me how the audit works, and that I could always take pride in what I do well. And if I didn't do it well, I always knew that I could learn. And one thing that motivates me every day is not all girls are told that, right? That we all have girls in our lives, neighbors, grandchildren, children, nieces, and they all need to be told that they can be successful and they can learn. And when they're told no, or when they're told that they're wrong, or they're, passed over, or, minimalized, that they can take pride in what they do well, and they should. So I think that's kind of been a theme through my whole life, that I'm very grateful that was instilled upon me when I was young, along with a little bit of stubbornness, goes a long way.
Well, that's great. I think when you said you have a Bill of Rights for the young girls, honestly, it should be a Bill of Rights for not only girls, but for women in general, because I think to a certain extent, we all have our inner little girl still with us, right? That carries, whether that's trauma or the accomplishments or the successes and the memories and experiences. So thank you, Leah, for sharing that. Marie, please share any experiences you faced as well, and are still moving despite those odds. Yes, thank you, Leah, for including that. Marie?
Sorry, I had you on mute. I think the reason I've been successful is I don't really look at gender. I look at a person and I like to judge everybody based on merit. And I think I was fortunate growing up where I had very, very strong female influences. Both my grandmother and my mother are pretty bossy. In fact, I grew up with 2 brothers and I'm the boss. So, I've never really thought about gender bias. My first job right after college, I graduated in 78, was San Miguel Corporation. I was the first woman in the finance department, and I was hired as a guinea pig because they didn't think that women would last in the budget department, because during budget season, we slept and ate and worked at San Miguel in the building. And I was the only girl of 35 guys. And in fact, they made me shower in one of the vice president's offices, and my dad had to bring me clothes for work. But they didn't think us women would last, but I proved them wrong. And by the end of that year, they had 8 women in the department, because we were the hardest working and actually quite meticulous, and we produced better work than most of the men. And so to me, that was just continuous. And even in my personal life, I was only married for a few years, so I had to raise 2 children by myself. My kids were only 8 and 6 when I got divorced. And, I just don't look back. I don't regret anything. I just keep plugging on. And I think it's really all about gumption. You talk about failure. When you fail, well, guess what? Just stand up, you dust yourself off, and tomorrow's a brighter day. My mom always said, you greet your day the way you want your day to greet you. So I always wake up happy. And even in business, I'm probably one of 5 female-owned construction companies in Arizona, and one of the most successful. It's sort of irritating when I go to builders conventions and their first question, just because you're wearing a short skirt, is, whose secretary are you? And I'm like, I built 180 apartment complex last year. What did you build, jackass? I mean, you know what I mean? Because they automatically look at you and think you're an airhead, you're a ditz just because you're female. But that's not true. After my divorce, I had to go to a counselor, and she gave me a psychology test. And do you know that in terms of ambition and drive, she said that I scored higher than most men, which she said was very, very rare for a woman. So, there was really, to me, I've just never seen men and women. I've just always seen opportunity. And if you give me opportunity, I'm there to win, and I'm going to beat the crap out of you. So that's me. Thank you.
Yes. Someone's going to tap out because you are definitely going to get at them. I love that story that you've shared about being the one and only woman in really a department of 35 men. But not only did you work hard, I mean, that probably already came to you naturally, obviously, in your psychology test that you took. So thank you. Actually, Marie, I want to continue with you, because you had started talking about people who supported you in your life, Marie, right? So the third question is, we all have people in our lives that support and guide us through our journey. So Marie, who were and are your mentors, coaches, and champions? What did you learn from them, and how did you pay it forward, Marie?
Oh my God. I thought about this question, Pinky, and it was tough because I had so many good mentors. But I would say my first mentor, my very, very first mentor, is my grandfather. I adored my grandfather. And and he was a congressman, and he was the one that taught me, what? You should always go for your dreams. You can achieve anything you set your mind to. And I'm sure all of you have heard this from your parents. And I think, to me, that was, and I adored my grandfather. I used to hang out at his office and do homework there, or whenever he spoke in Congress, I wanted my grandmother to take me so that I could listen to him, because I just thought he was the smartest man I know. So that was my first influence, was my grandfather. Growing up in college, I had, it was my aunt. She was a teacher in the University of Santo Tomas. So, and she was like me, and my mother and my grandmother, pretty strong. She was single, so she raised her kids as well. And now in the community, I think, who my best mentors are, I would think, like, say, I look up to the people that I serve with. In the Lions, I look up to the people that I volunteer with, because we all have jobs. Some of us are not retired, but we show up when there's a medical mission. We show up when there's feeding the hungry. We show up irregardless of how busy we are. And to me, that's one way of mentoring, because you know what? when you assign a busy person something to do, we always get it done, because guess what we're perfect at? We're perfect at time management. I could do 4, 5, 6 tasks. And, you know, I operate in very little sleep, and I drink jet fuel for breakfast. So when somebody asks me, what do you eat for breakfast? I eat jet fuel.
Jet fuel, ladies and gentlemen. This is how she stays this beautiful and young. That's well, thank you, Marie, for sharing that.
And in the federation, I looked up to the heads of the different chambers. You have some right there in Texas, Loloy and May Frias. We granted them the Chamber of the Year last year at our federation convention. Not last year, but the year before COVID, because they plug away, they network, and they have managed to grow their chamber in such a short time. And there's people like them all over the country. So those are the people I look up to, because those are the people with gumption. Those are the people who's going to try. And as long as you try hard, I firmly believe that all you ladies there will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie. You know, we were also talking with Dr. Katz, and she had mentioned, you know, that it's important to bring up other women, you know, behind us as well, or not even behind us, up to us and with us. So Dr. Katz, I know maybe you've had a little more time to think even more in detail about your mentors, coaches, and champions. What did you learn from them, and how have you paid it forward?
Well, I'm on. Okay, I am on this time. I want to share a neat quote from actress Anne Hathaway in looking at this and what we're all talking about. And she said, quote, "A man told me that for a woman, I was very opinionated. I said to him, quote, for a man, you're kind of ignorant," end quote. I love that. Of course, my mother and father really, really helped me along the way. But the significant research in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s on messages that women get showed that women who really get into high successful positions and all have gotten very strong messages from their fathers. They're always going to get good messages from their mothers usually. But it's those messages that come from your father that help you to look at, yes, I can do these things. So they always told me after college, after I graduate from college, I didn't realize that you had a choice of going to college or not. But it was always after college, you can do anything you want to do, but you have to remember, you have to be totally responsible for all of your decisions. And so they started me on that pathway of making decisions early on. Now, mentors here in San Antonio were in Northside School District, and it was the Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Jack Jordan. Some of you all might have known Jack. And then the Superintendent, Mr. Ed Cody. They were a great pair together, because Jack was the fist-pounding, tough, big guy that made sure everything got done, and Ed knew everybody's name who walked in central office. He was the social person. And so I learned from them about decision making, and I watched how they made decisions. And what I learned there was that time in making a decision is a huge currency that we need to use in making decisions. Take the necessary amount of time to collect the data, analyze it, request collaboration from colleagues, and then model it out before you make the final decision. That's what I saw them do all the time. So Jack and I had many conversations back and forth about the schools in Northside, because I was special ed director at the time, and I was housed at central office. And so he called me into the office one day and talked to me about the fact that he and Ed Cody were going to take a chance on me, and I didn't know what that meant. But they took a chance on me to be the first woman secondary principal in all of San Antonio. At that time, people thought that only men could principal secondary schools, and that you women just needed to take care of those little kids down at the elementary level. And so they said that they were going to promote me into a secondary school as principal. And Jack told me, quote, "Katz, You either need to sink or swim with this, end quote. And I told him, I'm going to be the best swimmer in this new position that you've ever seen. Have you heard that from me before tonight about my first job I was interviewing for at Austin ISD? So after all, I had to look at all of the aspiring women who were sitting on my shoulders who wanted to go into secondary and be administrators and all. So I had the weight of the women to go into future positions on my shoulders. Thank you.
Wow. So Dr. Katz swims. That's
Yes.
that's what she did. No
I'm a-
sinking, just swimming. I love that.
I'm a scuba diver. I'm a scuba
You're still
diver. So I
deep
know how to go
abyss.
down under that water and hold my breath and come back out.
You sure did, and you took that risk. Thank you. I'd love to hear from Rowena. Rowena, how have you paid it forward and thinking about those mentors and coaches and champions in your own life?
Okay. We have mentors. We all have mentors along the way. Sometimes we don't call them mentors. I come from a family of strong women. My mom and her sisters are probably the toughest people you'll ever meet. And then growing up, we had some teachers. Some were gentle, some were rough, but you learn from each one of them. And then when I was here starting a business, I met a lady when I was at the toughest part of my life, when I had to learn all about selling. I followed this woman, and she had a little gig called Lunch and Learn in our city next door. And I thought, it's a good way to start. I followed her. Her name is Starsha. I don't know if she's listening, but I followed her and I've learned from her. And in the process, she has grown as a woman as well. And we have known each other for long. And I have grown and we have kept in touch. And even today, she does this clubhouse series, a series of clubhouse discussions of women of color. And we talk about all these things all the time. I've also met a banker who's become a friend, and he is the one who points me out to where to get sponsorship and how to approach grants. There is Miss Ethel Mercado. If I need not to make a rational decision, Mom Ethel is this. She's my sounding board, and she has been wonderful. And then there's my husband. Okay, now how do I, have I paid it forward? Yes, all the time. I have never stopped. My employees in the previous, in the businesses that I have, I always encourage them to go back to school. I am so proud to say that they don't last more than a few years because they go forward to better jobs. And it's been tough on me because I have to teach again, but that's my pride. And if I call them, they will answer me. If I need something, they will be there. And I am very proud of that one. Also at the chamber, I would like, one of the things I love about chamber work is the opportunity to influence people and the opportunity to learn from them. So mentoring and being mentored, it's an ongoing process. And if we all do it with our heart, with sincerity, with ethics, be ethical about it, and be genuine, then we all grow through the process. And it's always a win for everyone.
I really enjoyed you sharing that, as a supervisor and as a leader, you allowed your team members, your staff to grow, even if that meant losing them. But it's their success, you are part of that history of their success by, encouraging them to further their education. So, props to you, Rowena, for being that type of leader. There's not very many who would allow folks to go to school and work at the same time, right? So, Leah, we'd love to hear you answer this question, to tell us a little bit more about those mentors who help you through your life, as well as how you're paying it forward.
Thank you, Dr. Pinky. These stories are just motivating me right now. I love hearing from all of you and powerful, strong women. I think that very much like Dr. Katz, I did not know that college was an option. That was just, I mean, it was like what we did. You know, I was 9, 10, 11 years old, and they'd say, Leah, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I'm going to get my doctorate or be a lawyer. I mean, that just was what we talked about. It actually wasn't until high school that I realized that not all students get that same message. And it really bothered me. It bothered me like to my core that access and opportunity weren't available to everybody. And I didn't quite understand why I was so bothered by it, but I think it drove a lot of what I've done with my life about access and opportunity. Because I had both. You know, I had parents who would say, try and go and learn. I had bosses that I learned so much from who took a chance on me. And I worked for people who I never wanted to emulate. And I learned from both of them, right? I learned from a supervisor I had when I was living in St. Louis who just was nitpicking and yelling at everyone. And I thought, this, you don't have to do this. Like, this is not the way you have to be in the world. And that motivated me. And so I see access and opportunity everywhere for the girls we work with and for the professionals that I consider friends and colleagues. When I first got here, this my supervisor at the time was the CEO of Girl Scouts of the San Antonio area. And they took a real risk in hiring a 30-year-old from St. Louis to come and be the part of the C-suite and run a department that was new. And I was like, yeah, I was like really cocky and thought I knew everything. And her name's Kathy Grantham. And she really was an amazing mentor to me. Listened to my, you know, knew everything in the world and taught me to take a deep breath and think things through and, you know, just be responsive to the team. There was a girl who wanted to come and work in my department. And she, from another department in the agency, and was struggling with going back to school or not. And I said, you can come. I would love to have you in the department, only if you go back to school. That's it. That's the condition. To go back and finish your undergraduate degree. Access and opportunity. If I can provide that for anyone, then I think I'm paying it forward. I could ramble on for longer.
Yeah, I think we all can. I mean, that access and access into your education really takes that woman so far, and not only changes her life, but changes her family tree, changes the entire root core of her predecessors, her descendants, right? And so thank you, Leah, for sharing that. Folks, we have come to our final question, and we are essentially at the very end of our session. And so I'd love to hear from all of our panelists. The final question is, all of you are in public servant positions, and you have spent many years dedicating your time to the community. What does community mean to you? How has community service impacted your life? And what is your vision for the future of your community? We'd like to start from the top with Dr. Katz on your feedback on this particular question.
Yes, I appreciate that question. And as I start in to answer it, I want to share one more quote with you that I really love. And this is from former Senator Shirley Chisholm, who was the first African-American woman senator. She stated, quote, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." End quote. I love that. We all need our folding chairs in our trunks wherever we go to meetings. And if they don't give you a seat at the table, then that means you're on the menu usually. So put a folding chair in your car. My parents instilled in me that I must give back. And they modeled that day in and day out as I was growing up. That was just like going to college. It was automatic. You gave back to your community. One way that I found out after they died that during the Depression, during the 1930s, they would discipline themselves to buy an extra little bag of groceries for the church custodian and his family. And they would take it every week and sit it on his front doorstep, and he never knew who did that. And they never told anybody that they did that. And so it's that giving back to your community, paying it forward. Now in 2012, I paid it forward out at UTSA, because I know that we have to provide the education and higher education for our people who are going to be our leaders and our lawyers and our doctors and everyone in our communities. And so after starting the scholarship program back right at 50 years ago with creating the Alumni Association, I gave a very nice gift. I was able to do so to UTSA, to the Alumni Association, so that many, many, many scholars and scholarships could go to many, many, many students. And I'm so proud of that. One of my students is a DACA student, and he has just finished his administrative degree out at UTSA to become a principal and to help other students coming to our country to be able to be successful. In the Women's Chamber of Commerce, we have designated 4 different educational programs that help students. And you heard Leah said that she was in one of the leadership programs that we have. And that's to help our women be able to get the knowledges and skills that they need to continue to advance. We have Transformational Leadership Development, a 6-month program. Bloomberg Business Program, which is a 6-month program. We have the Smart Women Series, which is about a 5 or 6 month periodically throughout the year on current business topics and current personal topics. And then we have, and Helica has worked with that program in the past. And then we have our Power Hour luncheons, where we have people who come, women who come and tell their story about some of the obstacles along the way that they had to encounter and what they did with those obstacles. And I don't know if Mayor Ron is still on, but his wife, Erica, our First Lady of the city, was one of our Power Hour speakers and did a beautiful job. And Dr. Maria Ferrier, who was the founding president at Texas A&M, was one of our speakers at Power Hour, and there wasn't a dry eye in the luncheon. So these are powerful conversations that we can have as women with women to help them grow and be successful, retool themselves, and continue to not only survive, but to thrive. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Katz. So lovely, as well as I love your quotes, and I'm going to make sure I bring my own folding chair in my car.
Absolutely. We have to have our folding chairs.
Yes. So I'd love to hear from Marie. Marie, what does community mean to you? How has it, impacted your life? And what is your vision for the future of your community?
Again, Pinky, let me break that question into 2. I'm an accountant, very analytical. For the Lions, my vision is to someday become maybe the first Filipino international president, but I'm working towards that goal. But right now, I think, we're all citizens of the world, and what we do to help the world that we live in creates ripples in the water, and I do believe that there is still kindness out there. Actually, you know what, when you go on a medical mission, you will see that there is a lot of kindness still in the world, whether it's in the Philippines, whether it's in the jungles of Africa, whether it's in Mexico or India. And it's so heartwarming to see how many people volunteer, how many people donate not only their time, but also their money. So that my goal is to really someday be an ambassador of goodwill for the Lions, and hopefully create a footprint for Filipinos, for Filipino leaders that have it in their hearts, to do something of impact to the world. Now, my second one is, I am first and foremost a business leader as the president of the only national chamber organization in the United States. Actually, that was one of my legacies. Is we are no longer just in the United States. We formed a branch in the United Kingdom. We formed a branch in Canada, and we formed a branch in Mexico. We are growing. Our chambers in the United States are growing and thriving. And we maintain we are the bridge to business between the Philippines and the United States, but now hopefully the United Kingdom and also the UAE. And that's just, one segment. And I'm going to end with this, and I would like to extend everybody an invitation, because this year we will be celebrating 457 years of the galleon trade between Spain and Mexico. And the Philippines. So the Federation is the organizing body for that, along with the Mexican government. So we would like you to join us sometime in November. But before that, in July as well, we are having our international convention in Guadalajara, Mexico. We would like to invite everybody on this call to join us, because this will be the rollout of the first FPACC University that we're building in Guadalajara, Mexico. It will be do you know that in a small town called Colima, it's a province, there are 200,000 descendants of the old Filipinos that were brought to Mexico by the first galleon ships. And they're all in that little village. It's amazing. They even have drinks called tuba, and the legend was the Filipino princess with slaves that they brought there taught the Mexicans how to do rock salt. And they even say that ceviche is actually came from the Philippines. That's our kilawin. And also ole. We have so many things in common.
Yes.
And that's what gave us the idea of doing an FPACC University there, because somebody donated an acre of land to the Federation. And we are also going to be doing a Filipino village. There's a whole island there. And I partnered up with the owner, and we are doing a Filipino village, which will make a great retirement community. Because you know what? When I retire, I don't want to move back to the Philippines where my kids have to fly 18 hours to come visit me. I want to be close to my grandchildren, if ever I'm ever going to have one. But I'd like to, Mexico is only 2 hours by plane from Arizona. And I think of the concept of a Filipino village there, a planned community for us to move somewhere that's only 2 hours away from our children. Hey, it's better than an 18-hour flight home. And so we will marketing these units in our July convention. And the Federation will be in charge of the marketing for all these units all over the United States. So we would like for you to join us and come see what kind of business opportunities there will be. There will be vendors from the Philippines, vendors from the United States, all representing Filipino-American businesses. Thank you.
What a vision. I'd love to be at that village in my older years, sipping on a pina colada. So thank you. Yeah. And we will definitely breathe into affirmation that you are the next International Lions president. Okay, Leah, we'd love to hear from you, how community services impacted your life.
Sure. And I think like most of us, if not all of us here tonight, have had community service as just part of who we are and growing up. So I really wanted, the piece of this question that really made me reflect was, what's my vision for the future, of our community? And if nothing else, this past pandemic year has given us time to reflect and think about, what I want to see in the future. And I want everyone to be safe in the world. Honestly, that is my hope, dream, prayer, that all individuals have safety and security in their home, in their lives, in their community, in their workplaces, that they have the confidence to support each other and help each other. And that's what I really reflect on, is how I can help the girls I work with have confidence and be safe in the world.
That's just so moving. I mean, it's such a simple ask, but still very complex in the world that we live in. And I dream and hope for that as well. Thank you so much, Leah, for that. And I'd love to bring it on in with our president here, Rowena. What is your vision of our future? What does it mean to you?
A vision for the chamber. Let's go for the question first. Why is it important? Why is community work so important? Because it gives meaning to what we do. It's like the foundation of everything that we do as a chamber, as any Filipino organization. One of the things I really liked about the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce when I joined is that it is probably the only chamber that I have encountered, and I've encountered many, that is founded on humanitarian work, which is very, very unusual. But it works, and it is uniquely Filipino in that way. And so we have to balance. We always balance. And Sir Gus Mercado would always say, you have the foundations, which is the trade, the business, and humanitarian. Those are the three pillars. And we have strictly adhered to that, and it's very fulfilling. But back to your question, the community you have to define what community is. Community can be my business. That's my community too. I take care of the people in my business. Community can be my church. Community can be as women. And this is what we are here today. And there is a need for women to help each other. There is a need for women to keep talking to each other. Let me give you a stat. American Express came up with the results of a survey. This is for 2019. The average revenue for a small business, a woman-owned small business, for white-owned women of business is 218,800. 218,800. Now, the same woman-owned business for a woman of color is 65,800. Do you see the disparity? Why is that? We have to figure out why. So we need to empower our own community. Now, we are Filipino women. We have a lot of challenges to face. But look at here, this one, this whole group that we have right here. We are each other's resources. We can pull each other up, or we can just, it's competition. Forget that. It's not. If we help each other, then this is our community. And the work that we do for each other, that's what gives meaning to everything that we do. Now, we've also partnered with a lot of groups to help us, and we help them. There's, of course, in Dallas, you have Lift Bond. We work with the SBA, Dallas-Fort Worth, Minority Supplier Council, and each one of those posts different communities. But let's not forget to help each other in whatever way, in all communities. And that's my lesson for today.
Oh, thank you so much, Rowena. We have to absolutely help each other in our communities, especially in our Filipino community, right? Mga kapwa, mga kababayan, right? And so thank you for closing out our panel discussion tonight. Let's give a round of applause to these wonderful women. Yes, I love how they're also, yes, we're applauding everybody here who took the time and the effort on their Saturday night to be here and to experience what they are and will continue to do and pave the way for many women such as myself, right? So you inspire us, you motivate us, and we honor you today in this Women's History Month virtual panel. Thank you. And so Dr. Lattimore and I know we're really past our time. I'm not quite sure if we still want to host any Q&As. I'd like to call upon Dr. Lattimore to perhaps get us to that point, or maybe call us out to an end.
I think that I'll call us out to an end. One of the things about a great program is when you leave people wanting more. And I certainly want to hear more, but there's so many things that we could discuss that I would like to do at a later time. And so I wanted to thank you, Dr. Pinky, for your service to us, all of the panelists who've been wonderful in sharing your experiences. And, even though I'm a guy, I've been really inspired by, everything that has been said here. And one of the things that is amazing is that strong women also inspire men. And so the importance of strong women is what they offer to their sons and the people that they hang around. And so when you have a strong woman who's about equity in their household, they are raising young men and boys who will do the same in their households. And so the role of women and also men like my father who were there to see, to ensure equity in the household, it's a whole relationship that's so important. So I thank each and every one of you for your service. On behalf of the PACC, we are an organization that accepts everyone. And as you can see, we don't discriminate. Everybody is here, we're represented. I'm not Filipino, but one of the things I love about this organization is that they have involved me, and I just enjoy being here. And so if you're interested in joining a PACC chapter, we are always open. We accept everybody. All are welcome. Again, thank you. We hope that you stay safe during the COVID epidemic, and stay safe and have a wonderful evening. Thanks again to everyone who was there. Thank you, Angelica, and to Yoli for your service to the PACC, Gus and Ethel as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.